repairs and gives away cars for free to single moms, widows, and wives of deployed military. You can help God's Garage by donating a vehicle, volunteering your time, or by monetary donation. God's Garage is located at 2106 East Davis, Conroe. If you'd like to learn more about God's Garage, visit our website at godsgarage.org. Or you can contact us and we would be glad to come and make a presentation to your group.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KCCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour. I think we've lined up a wonderful show for you and going to provide you that information and ideas that hopefully you can turn them into something to help your business even today. We're broadcasting live, as we often do, from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County. Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit community radio station, which means the community has the opportunity to participate. The shows that are broadcast through Lone Star are primarily locally produced. That means anyone in the community has a good idea with a few rules and a few guidelines can come, put a show together, and reach out to the community here in Montgomery County. I encourage you to join the community, be part of Lone Star Community Radio. I'm a volunteer. I'm also a sponsor, and you can do the same and be part of this public opportunity to tell people what's going on in a particular area or idea that you are behind. So a quick thought, I always like to throw something out to get the show going. A quick thought for everyone. What happened this past week in Washington that impacted your business? What happened? I mean, I would assume that nearly 100% of our listeners, business owners, business managers, realize that Washington is being literally turned upside down. Some good, some not so good. I don't know. But I like the action and the activity. But you need to realize that your business most likely is going to be impacted depending on what the follow through. And what I'm talking about is tariffs. I was reading a great article this morning about the impact of tariffs, potential impact of the tariffs that our President Donald Trump is suggesting be implemented. In fact, I think some have already literally been implemented, that the impact on the auto industry and understanding how it flows through the entire industry down to the vehicle, the car, the truck that you buy, potentially could cost up to 25% more if this all goes into effect as it was originally designed. But we know politics, things change. Perhaps the impact won't be so bad, but potentially it will impact your business. And I'm encouraging to kind of stay involved and listen and read about the impact. If you're part of an industry group, you have access to an association, see what they're saying, a specific impact on your industry. We're waiting on the counteraction by the other countries. The countries are being impacted. Mexico and Canada have already responded. I saw the headline today, Mexico and the U.S. agreed to a 1-month delay. So we're in the midst of it. And but who knows what's going to happen. But my encouragement, again, is get up to speed real quick. These tariffs are barreling down on American business, small business, big business, corporate, whatever you want to call it. It's bearing down on all of us like a speeding locomotive. Don't get left at the station. Get on the train and do what you have to do to protect your business and the potential of dealing with tariffs. Well, you're in the right place if you want to learn about the latest business news, get ideas to improve your business, and participate in conversations that can make a real difference in your business. I want to remind you that this show is being broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can watch us as well as listen. I know some of us have kind of an issue just listening to something and soaking it in. Music's okay, but just dial into YouTube or Facebook, and you can watch us here in the studio. Not much action, not much activity, but I encourage you to do it. Also, I want to remind you that if you have a question about the show, you got a question about your business, send me an email. I'm Rick at irlonestar.com. That's Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. I answer all questions. As regular listeners will know, we have a mailbag segment from time to time where we answer your question on air. So please send that in to me. And again, comments about the show, improvements, guests that you would like to see me have, particularly experts, because we draw our experts from around the country. So if you know someone you'd like to hear from, let me know about that as well. Now we're going to move on. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts, the heart of our program, and that are our special guests. And today we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, something that many people in small business really don't consider, and that's real estate, commercial real estate. And every business, well, I guess there are more exceptions today, has a connection with real estate. I recognize that people work out of their homes, this whole pandemic thing, but most businesses, growing, successful businesses, are connected either as a tenant or an owner of commercial real estate. So we brought in some experts, and we're going to talk about the impact of commercial real estate, your real estate, on your business, and particularly we'll get down and talk about the market right here in Montgomery County. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Ryan Hutson. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
And we have Ashley Gibson as well.
Thank you, Rick.
And they're with the Hutson Realty Partners. It's a firm that focuses, again, on commercial real estate here in the Montgomery County area, and is exactly what we're going to talk about. I've said that 3 different times, 3 different ways, but we're talking about commercial real estate, folks. I'm excited because of my background, because it is hard to find someone in Montgomery County who can talk about. Yet there's all this construction going on, offices, office warehouses, retail, all kinds of stuff. Ryan, why don't you lead us off and talk about a little bit about your background and the story that is behind the formation of Hutson Realty.
Sure. So I've been in commercial real estate. I started off primarily as a principal. I worked in corporate America, and I just started investing in commercial real estate and just real estate in general. And that was sort of what got me, I guess, into the business, so to speak, and ultimately led to me acquiring a real estate license and brokering transactions for third parties and clients. And I've been doing it for over a decade now. I love it. I'm a deal junkie. I love putting deals together. Just the creativity, there's no bounds. It's limitless. Some of the things that I've seen involved in negotiations and real estate transactions are just phenomenal. You learn something on every single one, it seems like. And but anyway, I got out of corporate America after obtaining my license and started. I went to work for one of the larger Houston real estate firms, the greater Houston real estate firms, and did that for 6 or 7 years. And then about 3 years ago, we started the company, and been going ever since.
Haven't looked back.
Haven't looked back. No.
Well, Ashley, what about you? What brought you to where you are in the commercial real estate business?
Well, as a young girl, I always had an interest in it. Like, I was raised around boys, and, so it was always like kind of a man's world. And so I think as a female that was surrounded by that all the time, I was like, where would I fit? And so at 20 years old, I was like, I'm just going to go to real estate school and I'm going to do it. And so at 20, I went to a little real estate school and decided I'm going to do commercial. And then life happened, kids happened, ended up opening a commercial construction company and did civil construction for 12 years. And then decided to get back into real estate. And so started buying it, started doing all the things and got back in. So I dabbled in residential for a little bit, and then just the pandemic happened and, all that. And then I was like, you know what, my heart's with commercial. And so that's when he became my mentor, and, he just really came alongside me and taught me everything. And it really made it make sense to me. So we started Hutson Realty Partners, and ever since we've just been going. So in a man's world, I am. So here I am.
Well, I don't know if so much, I think it's a woman's world. I always believe that for a lot of different reasons. But I think in business today, we find some of the best leadership we have in all industries that I'm aware of are women. So it's not a barrier, right?
No.
Or it's even when I meet with someone, I'm there to meet with the best and brightest. And that's what's important. But I was raised accordingly. I grew up in real estate. And in fact, my first job in real estate, guys, I was 14, 15, and back in those days you could get a hardship driver's license because you needed to get to work. So I got my license, and our family had started to develop shopping centers, 5,000, 6,000, then it went to 12,000, 20,000, and it kept growing. But for 2-3 years there in high school, I was the maintenance man for 6 shopping centers spread all over the greater Houston area. And so I'd load that truck up, go out there, clean that parking lot, mow that grass, and most importantly, get one of the tenants to sign off I'd done a good job. So my father was very smart, as he was in many things, in training me and the opportunity to do that. And then I went to college, got that formal education and all the different formulas and so on and so forth. So I'm well steeped in commercial real estate.
So you were the property manager. So when there was a problem,
that was later. When I graduated college, that's where I started. It was my first job, was to be a leasing agent / property manager.
Gotcha.
I was most equipped, I think, and what I really loved was property management.
Sure.
And ultimately, I oversaw all of the assets, multiple cities, a lot of storage warehouses. At one point, we were the largest in the United States, and that because we were in the beginning, back in the 70s. And then,
So y'all paved the way.
well, in a sense, I know, like here in the state of Texas, for example, being on the elite, the state did not have any kind of contract form. They always like to put, so we literally wrote the form, our attorney did,
Right.
and worked with the state, and it became the official contract. Because as you know, in storage and in retail, it's a unique relationship.
Oh, for sure.
And we all watch Storage Wars and all those kind of things. I got to experience that firsthand on a monthly basis.
That's awesome.
People often forget, I'm not there to sell stuff. I'm there to collect rent. And the selling part was a pain in the backside. But a lot of people were like the Storage War. It was quite interesting, but a wonderful business, at least at that time. Well, let's talk about the real estate. You've chosen to focus, both of you, for different reasons, chose to focus in the commercial area. Ashley, you've got a commercial construction background, I assume commercial.
Yes, sir.
What a wonderful background. I mean,
is.
at one point I ran our construction company. I was the director who approved all bids, all this and that. The day-to-day, we had a staff of people, but
Well, I tell my business owners, I think that's the best part, that I've been in their shoes. So I've walked the walk. We own the real estate. I've done it all. We've dealt with the books. We've dealt with the bills. We've dealt with all of it. And so I can look at my owners and stand beside them and say, I've been there. Like, I understand. So it's stressful. Like you said, like the storage companies and the tenants, and it's all very stressful, and it's a lot. And so I do a lot of tenant rep for, retail, and I love doing it. And there's a lot of commercial agents that hate it because they're like, man, there's just, it's so much. It's so invasive, because it really is. I mean, your 80-page contracts, 100-page contracts, working with Fidelis and some of these bigger companies. So I just like to guide my clients, and I've been in their shoes. And so, when they get upset or they don't understand something, like, I'm just very patient with that because I've walked in those same shoes. And so,
Right.
and even putting on a hard hat as a woman and being out there. I mean, I worked with some of the biggest companies, cellular companies in America, Verizon, T-Mobile. So, I mean, I was out on some of those sites. I was doing those things. I was in the thick of it. And so I've done it all the way, like you said, from the ground up. And so there really isn't a place that I haven't been in that. And so it definitely gives me a different edge. And so I think when I said man's world, it is because there is a lot of men in this business, because it's not an emotional business. It's very business oriented. And so women are emotional. And so there's times where I can be emotional with you, and then there's times that I can, tell you what's up. So I think there's definitely an edge for my construction background for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I would think that just makes you a step ahead of most of your peers out there. That's, So Ryan, how do you keep up with Ashley? I mean, she's got this construction edge that we just talked about.
Yeah, Ashley does great. So we have we've got a pretty wide spectrum of clients. Ashley is phenomenal. She represents a lot of retail users of commercial real estate, small business owners, new business owners. She has the heart of a teacher. She can literally walk somebody through, all the things that they need to look out for and be on the lookout for when getting into a lease or a purchase sales agreement on a piece of property. But then, we also have, on the other side of the spectrum, we've got some pretty sophisticated, developers or purchasers, landlords that they've been in the business their whole lives. And, they want to crunch numbers and look at cap rates and cash flows and, all the nitty gritty stuff. And so, working with them is a completely different experience. And then you have all the different asset types from, office, retail, industrial, land. And so, it's kind of like, what do you want to do? There's just so many ways to slice and dice, and there's so many different facets. And so I think our skill sets together kind of allow us to cover that entire spectrum of needs.
Which is different because most agents choose usually their broker's like, hey, you do this. You only do land, or you only do this. And so one thing that he doesn't do is he doesn't put boundaries on my learning. And I'm widespread. And so I'll say I love working for him because he doesn't say, okay, well, I think you should just work with tenants, because that's just my skill set so widespread, and I couldn't learn if I couldn't do it all. And so I learn something new every day, and it's so much fun that I don't have to be put in a lane, because I don't do good in one lane. I do good in a lot of lanes. And so he definitely puts up with me. So I say together we do learn a lot, and he doesn't hold me back. So.
Well, the company's only 3 years old, right? I got that right?
That's right.
So you started a business like many of our listeners, or a lot of listeners are also thinking about starting a business and trying to get a tip and a leg up on everybody else. Talk to us about some of the challenges you had in starting this business.
Yeah. When starting a business, if you're working for somebody else, the marketing's taken care of, the accounting's taken care of, the advertising's taken care of, just all the things that go with running the business are sort of already in place. And when you're starting, it's all on you. Where are you going to office? What's your branding going to look like? Who's going to do your accounting? Who's keeping track of all these transactions? So just having everything, fall on your shoulders and you being responsible for everything it was overwhelming at first. Because before, when you're working for somebody else, you just get to focus on the transactions and the deals, the fun stuff. And, running the company is, having to make all these decisions that affect, your employees and your agents and other brokers that work for you. And, it makes it hard to sleep sometimes because, you care about these people and, how the company is impacting their lives. You want them to wake up excited to come to work and for it to be a fulfilling and positive experience for them. And you have a lot of control and influence over that as a business owner. So.
Well, let me tell you, you're a good example. I spend a bit of time always available for people that are thinking about going in business. I'll sit down and give them an hour of my time, up to an hour. About half of them, after I listen and we talk, I try to talk them out of it because, and when people talk about failure of businesses, the first thing they always talk about is capital, having money. Well, I think what they sweep under the rug a little bit when they do that, more importantly, what I've observed and what I personally have experienced over the years, it's more, are you really built? Are you really the person to own and run a business?
Because some people aren't.
And you drill down a little further and the business that you're thinking about opening, and there's a mismatch of personality, I call it. And that puts you behind before you ever open the door. Money's important, I get it. But what I find is people, if you really thought this through, that this is what you're going to be doing and what you need to do. And I think the real shock, you hit the nail on the head, is all of a sudden from a very focused responsibility, you've got it all. I can't tell you how many times that after I went out on my own and started businesses with and without partners, how many times in the beginning I sweated payroll, because ultimately it was me that was responsible. And you got to make those payrolls, and it's very, very important.
That's right.
So
We're going through some growing pains right now. We've recently, we've been sort of ramping up our staff and the number of agents and things like that at our company. And so we're going through some growing pains right now, having to standardize putting some processes and adopting some technology to assist us with, not only how we market and assist our clients, but also just within the company too. How are we doing, document storage and retention and things like that. So, all these processes and getting the right people and the right technology all in place and having it work together so that you can have everything just be seamless and smooth is challenging. And
Yeah, because when it was just me and him, it was easy because it was like there was nobody else to worry about. And so I think for a long time we didn't grow because it was comfortable. And we were like, we know we can get this done and we don't have to deal with anybody else. So I think we did that for a little while of just being us, which was great. But at the same time, it was like, well, what about things we don't have time to do or want to do at this point? Because, you get to a point where you're like, those aren't the kind of deals I want to do. Like, I want to focus on this. And so we do. We have some clients that need our attention, and there's just some things that we don't to fall through the cracks. And so I think in our planning of like, how are we going to be different than some of these commercial companies around here, I had to get him out of a comfort zone that also was kind of comical because I'm a personality. I always say like I'm the personality hire. Like that's why I was here. Like he's the brain. It's like Pinky and the Brain. And so we always say that, but we've definitely caught some of those growing pains of just like, okay, it's not just us anymore. We do have more people to worry about. We have more clients to worry about. And so, and then just getting him comfortable with some of it, like getting on camera, getting on radio, getting on social media, because a lot of commercial companies up until a couple of years ago, they didn't get on social media. They were just like, it was almost like taboo to do that. So we've kind of won the social media gear, and I had to get him comfortable with that. And now it's like, he's like, let's book the show. Let's go here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So now he's kind of pulling me along. So it's almost comical how it happened. So
well,
definitely.
I tell you what I see, just make an observation beside what we're talking about, an observation though, because I have what I'll call loosely, and I don't know your legal formation, but a partnership. And I watch and was blessed to grow up in a partnership between my dad and my uncle, which is my mother's brother. Business was originally started by my grandparents, and it wasn't the real estate business. It was my uncle and my dad that morphed into that, along with the other business, which was a cash flow business. But they balanced. My dad was you, and you were my uncle. My uncle bought the land. He got the financing done, whatever. And then when they went to sell properties, he took the lead. My dad counted the money, made sure they had the right insurance, made sure everything legally was done properly, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people don't realize you can make a lot of money in the back end. And that was one of my father's goals, was making money. And he challenged people, like the controller, how much money can you bring in this year? And it wasn't about management fees or whatever. Well, it was saving this here or this insurance situation and being able to. So it's a great balance, because together they did a lot of things that probably neither one separately would have been able to do.
That's right.
So I think it's a difficult thing to find a good partner. I had one really good partner in my career, and we started from scratch a business, $500 each in the till, and he was an engineer, genius engineer. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but it was just, we were the yin and the yang or whatever, right?
That's
so there
what we call
go.
ourselves for sure.
Well, let's take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to kind of return to what I promised we talk about, and that's real estate here in Montgomery County. Because as businesses, you think about moving, you think about getting more space, you think about buying, your own property. I hear these conversations as I go around the county at Chamber of Commerce's, in the roundtables, the business roundtables that I mentor. So please stay with us, and we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll jump right in to Montgomery County real estate. Thanks.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education program that helps consumers understand how their food choices impact their health by making the connection to agriculture. Learning about how food is grown and produced, and how consumers can make better food choices for themselves and their families, Path to the Plate is all about dispelling myths and misconceptions. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're off to a good start. We're having a wonderful conversation here with Ryan and Ashley. Talking about real estate, again, something that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad that we have finally, I think only once in 12 years have I had a guest that came in and talked, and it was a part-time thing for them. But I understand the importance of small businesses finding a good place to call home.
100%.
And it's important to use a professional just like you would in a legal transaction or to get a tooth pulled. You need to be with a professional. It's very, very important. Well, let's go to the conversation. Montgomery County, what's going on in Montgomery County right now? You drive down the road and you see a lot of construction.
A whole lot of growth.
I mean, you see a lot of
Fastest
houses
growing
being
city
built.
in the nation.
Yeah.
Apartments. I mean,
So
they've
much.
overbuilt apartments. It's got to be that way. I don't know, but
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot around apartments here in Conroe. They've changed the density requirements, and they've listened to the citizens. They saw the number of apartments that were coming, and they saw how that was the toll and the impact that was having on infrastructure. And so, yeah, cities and municipalities and the county are, kind of having to check and adjust to control and manage, quote unquote, manage the population growth. I think Montgomery County's population doubled in almost a very short period of time, 10 years.
Right.
And that's tremendous growth. Here in Conroe, the city was named, the fastest growing city for, multiple years in a row. You look at Texas, you look at the U-Haul data, where you see U-Hauls coming in, and the corporate relocations and the people just coming, especially after COVID, coming to, a state like Texas that is kind of more pro-business. And, Texas is always one or two on the U-Haul charts, and it's an unbelievable place to do business, and especially if you're in the real estate business.
Well, I grew up in Houston, Harris County, and I'll never forget, I had a conversation with my father, which, again, he was successful, he and my uncle, and very successful in several industries as they put their business together. And so I got a chance to see what that looked like and participate. But one of the things he said, I got married, I was 29 years old, and I wanted to move, particularly to Wyoming. I was in love with Jackson Hole back then. It's totally different than it is today. But the property, I had it all figured out. Well, first thing happened was the woman I was blessed to marry, she hates cold weather. She absolutely hates snow, okay? I mean, I didn't know that, okay? But I sat down and had the conversation with him, and he said, let me tell you something, you can move anywhere you want. He says, but it would be my recommendation that if you want to make money, you do it right here. And then when you have the amount of money you need
Then move
or
to
want, then move wherever you want and not have to worry about it.
Smart man.
And yeah, he and my mom's father, my grandfather, he's the one that brought the family, if you will, to Houston. And he saw after the war in 1948 that there was opportunity. Well, the United States was blowing up then. Mm-hmm. Millions of men and women coming back into the workforce.
That's right.
And he happened to be taking a trip between Atlanta and Corpus and to check on a business. He was partners in Corpus. He got the weather delays in those days. The planes didn't fly through very bad weather. Got stuck in Houston overnight, and like you, he doesn't sit still. Mm-hmm. And he called up somebody he knew that lived in Houston, talked with them, and they said, there's a business or so, you need to look at it. And so the rest is history. And so, I knew he had to be really excited because he apparently called his wife, my grandmother. They lived in Atlanta. That was her hometown. My grandfather was an orphan. But he had the courage to call her and say, Ruby, what do you think about moving to Houston, Texas? And somehow convinced her. So I know he was convinced that Houston had a bright future. And I know he, my father, and all the people that built Houston into what it is have a belief. What makes Montgomery County so special, in your opinion, particularly in the real estate area?
I think Montgomery County just has all the right ingredients. We've got a 20,000 acre lake called Lake Conroe. We've got state and national forests that are huge draws from a recreational and personal activities. It's great for work-life balance. You have a place you can go hike and ski and swim and fish and do all the things, and then combined with, we have elected officials that are strong supporters of law enforcement. I think a lot of major metropolitan areas aren't as fortunate to have that in Montgomery County does. I think a lot of the county, most of the cities and municipalities are pro-business, pro-growth, pro-development. I know it's frustrating sometimes when you see them trying to pump the brakes in order to manage it, but I think in their hearts, and they're trying to allow businesses and developers to do the things that they want to do. So I think just all those things combined in Montgomery County just make it it's all the ingredients and the recipe for a strong environment.
I think one of the things that really helps too is it's just north of Houston, Texas.
100%.
Houston draws a lot of attention, but then people see certain things. Corporations will evaluate and say, hey, and then they see an area like Montgomery County and said, hey, we can do like the airport. A lot of people were taken back with the development in the airport in the last few years, the runway, this, that, but it is part of the puzzle.
100%.
Because you will draw those businesses. And boy, look at the businesses that have relocated here.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And the facilities. I always I'm taken back that we're making, as we sit here today, a bunch of aluminum cans, millions of them, right here in Conroe.
Conroe has two of the largest canning facilities in.
Who would have thought? So that's just kind of an interesting twist. But you're right, the lake and the activities it offers, I think, are part of the core that provides that recreational outlet for people who move here.
It does. It makes it a great place to live.
Infrastructure is a big challenge, though. And you're in the real estate business, so you sort of become aware of the infrastructure before a lot of people do.
We do. We tell our developers sometimes, I'm like, this road is coming in, this is coming in. They're like, what? I'm like, it's a couple of years, but we try to stay on the pulse of TxDOT and all those things. I mean, he nerds out constantly on that kind of stuff, and then we sit there and talk about it, and it's crazy, the growth and the impact and things that TxDOT hasn't yet done or has in the plans. And so it's important even putting my businesses places. I'm like, you probably don't want to go there. They're about to put a median here or this. And so it's crazy to be able to have that insight. But if you're not working with somebody with insight like that, it's even worse because, you don't know what's happening. And
well, you miss opportunities.
You do.
And I know location.
100%.
I did a lot of leasing as a family business, was a retail service business, so it was about locations. And I learned a lot about the right location today versus 5 years, 10 years. Believe it or not, I was alive when they were doing 20-year leases with 2, 5, or 10-year extensions or options. So that's amazing to me.
That's crazy.
Today, you're nowhere near. It's crazy. But no, back to the infrastructure. I think the one thing that's a thread, or one of the things, there's multiple threads, is the availability of water.
Correct.
We're going through a big
San Antonio,
moratorium.
When I was in college at the University of Texas, San Antonio was having water issues, the availability.
Right.
And it's not changed.
Right.
And we just saw what happened, unfortunately, in California.
Yep.
The impact on business of the availability of water. And I think Conroe currently has a moratorium, if you will, on a certain section.
That's right.
Where they don't have the infrastructure. What do you see as the impact of, say, the water?
Yeah, it's been a hindrance because there's so many businesses that require high density water and sanitary sewer services in order to places like restaurants and nail salons. They have to have that infrastructure in order to operate their businesses. And I think just here in Conroe, like you mentioned, there's a development moratorium on the west and north sides of the city. They're trying to catch up. They've got to drill 4 very big water wells in a short amount of time. And there's other parts of the county that have been playing catch up too. Magnolia, they were in a little bit of a crisis a few years ago.
Well, they're still in it.
It's still in it, yeah.
And Montgomery's going through it right now too because there's so many developments coming in. And I think that's a good thing too because some agents want to sell land so bad that they don't look at the details of things. And so we go into with our clients and we teach them like the moratorium, like anything like that where most agents are just out there willing and dealing, like it's a little different from us. I'm like, you probably don't want to buy that one. This is what's happening with it. Or maybe we should go to this one. And so knowing that information and once again having that finger on the pulse of the moratoriums and the infrastructure, like that's so important. And so working with a professional that knows that is critical. So
no, obviously, and it's your own location. And the thing I always tell people, particularly small businesses, is it's probably the one and only time, unless you lease and you plan to expand or move, but buying a location, typically it's a one-shot thing for most small businesses. So you don't need to expect that you're going to have the skill set and the information to make all the right decisions or best decisions, as I call it. Let's talk about a little bit, Ryan, let's kind of wheel. You mentioned off air about being an entrepreneur, business owner, and that's one of the things I try to always bring to the show is allow people to talk. You've shared your business story with us, but let me ask you, what advice do you have for businesses if they're looking for a leased location or own a piece of property? What's your general advice to them? Where should they start? How should they do it?
Yeah, I would definitely advise you to consult with a professional because there are some decision points on making a lease purchase decision. And, depending on, if you're a brand new business and, a lot of it can be a personal decision, but obviously when you're looking at it in a business context too, you want to take that into consideration. But if you're a brand new business, you're starting out, maybe capital's tight, maybe it makes sense to get into a lease scenario, do a short-term lease, especially if you're not having to do and spend a whole bunch of money on leasehold improvements. But if you're an established business and this is going to be a second, third, fourth location for you, and you're established, you're up and running, you're okay, you like to have a lot of control and over your property and that sort of thing, then you're well capitalized, then maybe a purchase is a better option. So sometimes there's not always an exact right or wrong answer. Sometimes a lot of it is personal preference, but in some cases there is a right or wrong answer. So we can help you work through all of those types of decisions because there are a lot of factors that go into making that decision tree.
I remember the real pressure on either decision, lease or buy, that always concerned me, that I had a hard time, is expansion. Because I was always growth oriented, but what does that look like in 5-10 years?
Right.
So do I have enough land? Do I have a big enough space? That was the most difficult challenge personally that I had to sort of figure my way through when I made a deal or encouraged others to make a deal or not make a deal.
And right now in Montgomery County, I think the majority of our clients, that is probably one of the top 3 or 5 decision factors in when they're trying to go through this process is how am I going to grow? How am I going to expand?
And we consult on that a lot. I mean, it's not about a paycheck to us. I can go lease a huge space to somebody or a very small space. And so for me, it's like, what does your overhead look like now? What are your growing pains? What are these things? So these are questions that I don't think a lot of people put into form. And I think since we've been in that industry and we own it and we've done it, I think that that's so important to us in the forefront is just, hey, let's talk about this. And we've dealt with national companies, huge companies that are like, this is our path. And I'm like, okay, well, how much space do you need for that? And we do really have to go through that with them. And we've had, okay, we're going to get a 20,000 square foot facility. And I'm like, okay, but what does that look like? And then we went down to a 5,000 square foot facility. Would my paycheck look better at a 20,000 square foot facility? Absolutely. But does that fit your growth path right now? And they'll use me in the future for that. And then when they purchase their property. And so for me, it's a long game. And that's what commercial is. And I think that's why a lot of people aren't successful in commercial because it is a long game. And so if you aren't patient and if you aren't steadfast, it's very tough. It's not residential where it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, 30 days, here we go. It's a painful process sometimes. But I mean, being able to speak to people in a way that like calms them and to know that I'm not here for the big deal always. I'm here for what deal fits you right now at this point in life. And so I think that's why we have a lot of people that come and consult with us about what we should do. I mean, from the point of like how they structure their business, what their name is. I mean, most of my clients are like, Ashley, what do you think? Like, I mean, we really go from the bottom to the top with you. And so their family becomes my family. Like it's personal to me. And so I think that's how we're kind of different. I think you should definitely consult with a professional.
Relationships over transactions.
Right.
All day.
Yeah.
And we read that, we are told that, but so many businesses, and I'm going to flip onto your side, and I'm speaking from my experience as a business mentor, consultant, which is what I've done, for the last 20 years for small businesses. They don't consider those kind of things, and they definitely could use someone to come in and consult, mentor, whatever, and guide them through that process. And again, many times the process with real estate, it's a one-off. I mean, for them. And so, it's just interesting. But I subscribe to the same philosophy in working in business. I tell people when they start a business, I ask them if they want to engage me on a long term, do you have a lawyer? Does your lawyer understand business? Well, I can't speak to that because I also am a lawyer by trade, but and so I can't. But there are a few, that understand business.
Is
like
it the
you do.
right kind of lawyer?
An
You know what I
accountant,
mean?
the same thing. I mean, that people that can come in and advise you, not just solve a problem you have, but advise you. Insurance agent, same thing. And it goes on and on. I call them loosely professionals, but that's what most of them are, as far as the area that they serve.
They're your team. I mean,
you're right.
You got to engage your team.
They're on your team.
Yeah.
They're on your chart somewhere.
And we have multiple teams. I have the team that helps, us with the business for those types of things. But then, we have a lot of clients too that, they don't have a real estate attorney. They don't have a civil engineer. They don't have a surveyor. They don't have all the relationships that it takes to bring a project together. And so, we have those trade connections as well.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned community involvement, which again, something near and dear to my heart that I encourage all the businesses, because I'm involved in nonprofits. I was trained at an early age to be involved. And my mother the other day, she turned 94 Saturday, and she made an announcement the week before to myself and my youngest sister over lunch. She says, I am now officially retired from nonprofit volunteering. I'm a retired volunteer. And it sort of struck me, and I started thinking, I said, how long were you? 70, almost right, 75 years. All kinds of organizations, okay, I'm sorry, but it's just interesting. So the involvement of a business in the community, and what other area you would, I think it's critical to a small business particularly.
Yeah.
He's the most involved guy I've ever met in my life.
So
Sometimes overly.
Tell people about what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I do feel over involved sometimes, but it's great because being connected and being part of the community is that's you want to do business with people that are part of the community. They're people that you trust. They're people that you can count on. I do a lot of my service personally through, I'm the member of the Masonic Lodge here in Conroe. I'm a member of Lions Club. So I get, those are both very good service organizations that do a lot of amazing projects, not just here in Conroe, but across the county. And so I get a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction. And that's the reason to join those organizations is to give back and to be part of the community. But ultimately, if you're in those organizations long enough, it's just going to happen. You're going to develop close relationships. You're going to develop good personal relationships, good business relationships, and you sleep good. You feel fulfilled at the end of the day of being part of those organizations, and especially if you're involved in participating in them. And whether you're doing it individually or as a company, we support them both ways.
Well, I think personally as a business consultant that I encourage people to put their company out there right in front and encourage employees. In other words, have projects. We see it published all the time. Well, this company did this, and typically the very large companies because it takes a little effort, but there's a lot of things available to small businesses as well. Bring 2, 3, 5, 50 of your employees out there and connect them, help them in their lives. But it also helps the company because it identifies that company as being part of the community. And I think there's an amazing result. Not only do you do more business, but it's just you're in a different class, in my opinion, as a business. And when I think, okay, I want to find a commercial real estate guy, and I'm aware of your involvement, your passion, and I said, well, I trust those people. They've already hadn't talked to them before, never did a deal with them, but you're starting out way ahead. So I think it's important. And I think it's important that your employees, your culture, absorb that as well. I think you can build longevity of employees with using that activity and that involvement. It's one of the cornerstones of what you're trying to do. So it's a neat thing, and I think people should. And I encourage people, I mentor them to find whatever it is you like and get involved and get your company involved.
Yeah, we've picked up new clients from just doing very small sponsorships. We've sponsored the CDAA, the Conroe Downtown Area Association's Christmas party every year. We do the Catfish Festival. It's not a huge sum of money. You're spending a few $100s to help these events and these organizations put on, achieve their mission. And it seems like if you put good out into the world, it comes back to you, and I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's indirect, so don't be disappointed it doesn't hit you in the face.
That's right.
But it's there. Well, we've got a few minutes left in the program today, and I have, again, deeply enjoyed visiting with you all. Sounds like your company is just dynamic. It's out there, and I 100% agree with you're in the right spot at the right time, as all businesses are, in my opinion, in Montgomery County. There's opportunity all around us, and it's new and expanding every day. But let's kind of finish up on a lighthearted note, so to speak. You have some stories of actual situations. You know, one of my favorite things to read is the Wall Street Journal once a week publishes real estate brokers, agents who had an interesting thing with a client.
Every day's interesting for us. We always say that. We're
Never
like,
a dull moment.
But
We've
these
never-
stories are, you know, and they focus on an area, so like a showing or an open house and things that happen.
oh yeah, we
Yeah.
see it all.
So share some stories.
We've had properties. I've been attacked by bees on a property.
He's been to nudist colonies.
We sold a property. The tenant was a nudist colony.
How were the showings?
Yeah,
They were showing.
we had to rectify the terms of that lease pretty quickly during that assignment. But there was a property out in San Jacinto County. It was a large tract of land, and there was a verbal lease in place with a nudist colony.
Right.
And so I went out there, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this was a part of an estate. We were working with the administrator of the estate to dispose of the assets and the portfolio of assets in this estate, and this was one of them. And so I had gone out there for the first time, and after meeting with the neighbor, who kind of kindly informed me, hey, before you go onto the property, just a heads up. And so
Little skin.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine that's the longest site survey you've ever done in your career. You just wanted to check every corner of that
Every
property.
corner. Oh yeah. So
No, we actually came to agreeable terms to have them vacate the property pretty quickly. Yeah, they were.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I never even heard anything about it, so that's amazing.
No.
What
That was
else have
amazing
you
for him.
encountered that?
Oh gosh, some of the things that you see trade and make part of a real estate transaction: boats, cars, vehicles, some of these personal items that get incorporated and thrown into some extravagant items that have gotten incorporated into a real estate transaction. It's not always just cash and financing trading hands. There's
people want all kinds of
people
stuff,
want
and
all
it's
kinds.
weird.
Yeah.
We're like, why exactly do you want that? I just want it. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
we'll
they
ask.
saw it and they were
Yeah.
it's part of it.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think we make our clients comfortable enough, maybe too much, to ask us stuff, and so I think sometimes we do get asked some pretty crazy
Yeah.
stuff. But
You have a deal where you're touring a property and they decide, well, I don't just want the real property. I want all the personal property too. I want
Right.
it literally as is, the way this thing sits right here.
and we
Okay.
get it done because we do work with the courts, we do estates, we do receiverships, we do all the things, and so we get to see all the wild. I do a ton of divorces, like things that I've been through in my own life that I can speak life into. It's insane what we see. It's insane what we get asked. Like, I think every day is a different day, but it does, for my personality, definitely keep me in tune because it's always something different. It's not just sell a house, sell a house, sell a house. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it really is a different movement every day. So we do love that. At the same time, kind of scared sometimes about what's going to happen next. So we definitely always have a different situation, but we always have a story. So
You're exactly right. I think people have the impression in general that real estate's pretty boring, pretty
Not at all.
cut and dry. It's a piece of land, it's a home, it's a farm, it's a nudist colony, whatever. and it's pretty cut and dry. But there are a lot of issues that you have to deal with typically to have a successful transaction.
there is, and even to teach our owners, things that we've learned along the way is always a good thing too, because every time there's a disaster, there's a ton of learning from it. So I feel like every transaction we just get smarter and a little more in line with things. So
Yeah, every transaction's different. Every transaction has its own nuances, and
its own lesson.
yeah, and there's 10,000 things that can kill a commercial real estate transaction. I mean,
Especially lawyers.
Law-
But anyway, we won't go there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of the show, and I can't thank both of you. I mean, this has been fun, and it could go on, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Being real estate nerds, right? We could just keep that conversation going, and I think Ashley would keep us in line. There's no doubt about it. Ashley, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience, your availability as commercial realtors right here in Montgomery County. It's so important. If one of our listeners would like to reach out to you for services or a question about something you discussed today, what's the best way for them to contact y'all?
Our website is HutsonRealtyPartners.com.
That's
And
Hutson with a T.
That's right.
That's good.
Hutson with a T, HutsonRealtyPartners.com. We're also on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. So
You're everywhere.
We're everywhere
so-
you want to be.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
HutsonRealtyPartners.com on all the social media platforms.
Well, again, thank you. And I can tell you, folks, from spending the hour or so with them, you need to talk to them if you're thinking about commercial real estate and if you're thinking about expanding, moving, buying land. These folks, at least a conversation, if nothing else. I think they might just fit your needs. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening today. Put a note on your calendar. We'll be back next week at 11 o'clock right here on Lone Star Community Radio. And look for the video podcast of today's program later this week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday. And you can find it all over social media, Facebook, the Weekly Business Hour page, YouTube, even the station, irlonestar.com, their website. Go to the daytime programs, scroll down, the Weekly Business Hour, and the show will be posted there as well. And as I like to say to people everywhere I go, business owners, business managers, until next week, stay engaged and always, always keep a focus on what's important in your business. Thanks.